Hi everyone, welcome back. It is snowing heavily outside and I'm feeling very happy about it. I love the snow tremendously and I'm just so happy to see it back. And when I was thinking about what videos to film today, one of the things that came to my head was, because I'm feeling so wintry, I wanted to talk about 5 neglected eyeshadow palettes that I want to use in the next few months that kind of have a little bit of a winter vibe for me. I have done these videos in the past. They seem to have gone over very well with you guys. And I think that's because we've all got stuff in our collections, as I keep saying, that we're not using and we should be using because we love them, but we just kind of forgot they existed. So I've pulled out 5 different palettes that I haven't used in a while and I want to get more use out of, and they kind of have a little bit of winter aesthetic to me. So the first one I'm going to talk about is one that I wouldn't actually say is neglected, but it is, and I'll explain in a second. So this is the Tarte Be a Mermaid and Make Waves palette. And the reason that I wouldn't say that this is a neglected palette is because I actually do reach for this palette quite a bit, but I'm only ever reaching for one shade, and that is this one down here called Bubbles. The reflection on this is going to be severe, sorry. This one is a blue with a purple reflect, and purple red reflect really, and I've never really seen a color like that before in makeup. I don't have anything like it whatsoever, so I do find myself reaching for this color quite a bit, but I ignore the rest of the palette. It's almost like it doesn't exist to me. I don't think I've ever actually used these blue and turquoise colors down here. There's a whole bunch of like red, warm maroon colors up in this area that I really just don't touch. And while I would never think that this is a neglected palette because I reach for Bubbles all the time, it truly is neglected because I'm just not using the rest of it. And the reason this kind of screams a little bit winter to me is because this quadrant is obviously, no, there's only 3 shades here. These 3 shades are very snow, blue, winter for me, and I do think they work with the other warmer colors in this palette. So I just want to get more use out of this because I really do like this palette as a whole. I find it very aesthetically pleasing, although obviously the packaging is quite cumbersome. But I do really like the shades and the quality and the performance, what little I've used of the rest of the colors. So I just want to get more use out of this guy. And also, there's always something to be said for scented eyeshadows. I just prefer it as an experience when I'm doing my makeup. And these have a wonderful vanilla scent to them. Okay, the next palette is actually the first one that I chose for this video when I was pulling out the 5 palettes to talk about. And I grabbed it purely based on the color of the spine. I lined my palettes up like books on a bookcase shelf, and I saw this and I went, yeah, you're winter themed. Silly, I know. But this is the Too Faced Clover palette. I think I got this about 2 years ago, and it was only available on Too Faced website, so I think I had it shipped to my in-laws in the US and then picked it up over Christmas one year. And I was really enamored with Too Faced back then. I wanted to have all the palettes that they made, and I thought that this palette was actually pretty interesting. The packaging itself is pretty cutesy. I'm not generally about cutesy things, but there's something about this that's really sweet to me. And the shadow combinations were, at the time, pretty unique for Too Faced. Too Faced is known for having neutral palettes. And there was something that just was special about this to me, and I think it's just because there is more color. I have used this sporadically over the years, but I feel like I don't reach for it as a singular palette just because the color combinations in here are weird. They're just strange. It kind of seemed a little bit haphazard. But for that reason, I want to play with this palette by itself and see what kind of looks I can just come up with using and sticking strictly to this thing, because I usually grab other palettes when I'm going to be using this one. So yeah, I just want to get more use out of it singularly, because I think I can come up with some pretty unique and interesting looks with it. I just have to play with it by itself, which is generally how I tend to come up with more interesting combinations, is when I force myself to only use one palette and one that has a bizarre combination of shades, because I think they're pretty strange in here, to be honest. I think they're fun. I think the colors are unique and different for Too Faced, but I do think the color combination is very bizarre. So anyway, I'm excited to play with this just on its own and not in combination with other palettes. Okay, the next palette, is this controversial? Who knows at this point? This is the Jaclyn Hill Morphe palette that launched 3 years ago now? I don't really remember. I picked this up from its initial launch. It's in cardboard packaging, which I prefer. I think it's in plastic now, but there are no shade names on the back. There are none on the inside. It drives me bananas. I can't stand that. But I actually quite like this palette. It's just very large, and I never reach for it because there's so many shades in here, and a lot of them are very similar. This whole chunk in the like diagonal middle, it's like all the same shade. I do actually like the quality of them though, so I want to get more use out of it. And while I like the formula of this palette, I feel funny even saying that because generally I just don't like Morphe. I got the 35, oh man, what was it even called? I don't know. I bought some of the 35 palette like 4 or 5 years ago at IMATS, and it was the worst eyeshadow palette I have ever used in my entire life. It was a bright, vibrant palette, and it was just pure trash. Pure trash. It was 20 bucks Canadian back then, which was a great deal, especially considering the fact that I did not like it, and it was just junk. So I kind of swore off Morphe at that point and was like, I don't need it, I don't want it. But then when Jacqueline put this palette out, I was like, okay, give it a shot again. And honestly, this performs much better than that garbage palette that I had back in the day. So I was pretty happy that I did buy this. Can't really remember what I spent, but I feel like it was expensive given the fact that we had to order it to Canada and there was customs on top of that. I have to say Morphe as a whole does not really appeal to me, especially after my experience with that terrible palette. But this palette I do actually like. I feel like the quality is there, but it's just too many shades. I think that's the reason I don't reach for it, is because this thing is just so big. Like even just holding it up, like it's cumbersome. There's just too many shades in here. I never think to grab for it because a lot of it is really one note. I mean, it's so similar in that sort of area. And then you've got 4 random colors over here. But I do actually like the quality of it, so I want to get more use out of it just because I've owned it for so long and I feel like I've only used it maybe 4 times in my life. So yeah, I want to get more use out of this guy. You know, I feel like I kind of lost it with a winter theme with that palette because it's very autumnal to me. I mean, there's those 4 like blue greens, whatever, but I don't know if I really stuck to the whole winter idea for this thing. Okay, the next palette is another one by Too Faced. This is the, from the Tutti Frutti range, the Razzle Dazzle Berry Eyeshadow Palette. And, well, first of all, I hate the smell of this thing. I love Too Faced scents generally, but this one makes me want to gag. It's just, oh, I got a whiff of it. It's just, blah. It's just that fake berry scent. Oh, my husband would love the smell of it. He loves fruit, scented, flavored, anything. But for me, this is just gag-inducing. That being said, the colors in here are fantastic. I really like this palette. I don't know why it didn't sell very well because you can find this very easily at Winners right now. It was never actually available, this collection, in Canada, but Winners has like all of it available for like half the price. Anyway, I do actually really like the colors in here. I'm especially enamored with this shimmery color over here. It is called Razzle. This is the best formula of metallic shimmer that Too Faced has ever done. It is smooth, it is buttery, it is foiled, and I don't know why they don't put this formula in more of their palettes because it is something incredibly special. The pineapple palette also had a color that was the same type of formula as this, and they are like hands down the best shimmer formula that Too Faced has ever done, and I don't know why they don't do it more. Aside from that, the mattes in here are really, really nice. They just seem to go really nicely on my eyes. And I haven't used, I think, these 2 shades at the end very much, but I do really like the first 5 shades in this palette especially. They just really go together nicely, and I think it's because I really enjoy monochrome eyeshadow looks, and this whole palette is monochrome, so I'm really drawn to it. Oh, I got another whiff of the scent there. I think one of the reasons I haven't used this very much though is because of the smell, and I kind of want to get over that. The smell's not going to go away anytime soon, but I do want to use the shadows a bit more because they do make a very, very beautiful eyeshadow look. So yeah, I want to get more use out of this. I've used the pineapple one definitely more than I've used the purple one, even though the pineapple one is a neutral palette. But I don't find the smell as offensive on that palette, so I know I've gravitated towards it more than I have this one. But this color scheme definitely appeals to me more. Okay, the very last palette I'm going to talk about is one by Juvia's Place, and I picked this up, I think it was in New York last year. I didn't get to go to New York City this year, which makes me very sad. It's kind of a yearly trip for me, and I kind of just forgot about it this year, and now it's November and it's too late to go. Anyway, this is the Zulu by Juvia's Place. And I grabbed it because I really like Juvia's Place's formula. I love, oh man, what is that palette called? Is it the Magic palette? I love that palette to pieces. It is so good. And I picked this one up because I thought it would sort of work with the Magic palette. Man, I hope that's the name of that other one. I thought this would work really nicely with that palette, but truth be told, I haven't really reached for this thing that much, and I definitely haven't used it with that other palette. So I want to pull this out because it's funny, the shades that I've used the least in here are the bright green one here and then the bright like turquoise one over here. They're shimmery colors, they're ones that I would put on the lid, but I don't think I've ever used them. I know I've swatched them, but I don't think I've ever actually used them on the lid. So I want to get more use out of them for sure. I know I've used like this rose gold down here, this red pink, the purple, and then the orange as well. But yeah, for whatever reason, I've kind of like skipped this middle row. And I mean, I ignore the brown because it's a brown. But the shades in here are really appealing. I do think it will work better with some of the other palettes that I have in this roundup of palettes that I've neglected. But it's just one of those that I look at it, it's aesthetically pleasing. I really like the colors in here, and then I just forget to use it, which is stupid. So I'm gonna be pulling this guy back out and it will work. I think especially with the Clover palette. Like if I hold these two up together, I feel like these are actually gonna work really well together. Or at least I hope they will. Because I feel like the color schemes should work together. Here's hoping. So that is gonna be it for this video. Those are gonna be the 5 palettes that I'm gonna stick on my vanity, and when I don't know what to do with my eyeshadow in the morning, I'm gonna reach for one of those because I am very, I've noticed, proximity based. If there is an eyeshadow palette that is closer to me than one that is further away, I will use the one that is closer. So I'm gonna put these on my vanity, and in the morning when I don't know what to do, I'm gonna reach for one of these palettes. And it's not even about using these exclusively for the next few months. I just wanna bring these to the forefront of my thoughts in the morning when I'm doing my makeup, when I'm going to work. So I'm excited to be using something a little bit different. Thank you so much for joining me in this video. I hope you found it interesting. I hope this encourages you to go into your stash and find stuff that you've ignored for quite some time and pull it out and start using it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.